Federation and Republican forces have entered a fully escalated conflict as they trade blows on an ESE frontier town. It is up to the Ouchies Republic to put an end to the conflict quickly or face a repeat of the Polar War. The Federation forces have been thrust back into the conflict, this time refitting their gears in such a way that they are bringing a recon drone with them. And the Republic is once again holding tight with its humanist allies, bringing in those awesome Spark Sagittariuses. To end this conflict quickly, the UMFA have been given some clear orders to secure the center compound and take the settlement for the Federation, and to break the back of the ESE forces by destroying their general purpose cadre. And on the ESE end, the command has been given to hold fast and destroy the ability of the UMFA to further incur losses to the ESE by destroying their CIC and completely destroying the Kodiak support group, thus eliminating the ability for the UMFA to continue doing damage. All the ESE has to do is to disrupt them in such a way that the regular forces can come in and mop up. Our deployments are for the most part mirroring each other, with the heavy elements in the center. In my case, it is the Strider groups with the Spark Sagittariuses holding down the center of the settlement, while the Venomous Sagittarius holds up behind a hill ready to rain fire from on far. And on his end, he does have the Grizzlies hiding behind a hill ready to rain fire from on far, while a general purpose cadre uses its recon drone and holds down the southern flank. I have to get rid of that immediately because he can actually see all of the Strider. And I light him up. I send the Visigoth down there immediately, take a shot down, lay into the one gear that he can see, and plaster them with the first shot. The guy got caught flat-footed. Republic gears move forward and start hulling down behind the settlement buildings, taking advantage of the cover that they provide and keeping the northern gears from being able to enter in the settlement unopposed. Grizzlies rain ineffectual fire from afar at the Blitz Visigoth, while in the center a duel goes down as command point after command points fired off at what could be a critical roll as the Spark Sagittarius gets a beat on by the gear down in the center of the settlement, trying to take the AGM at it. It ends up whiffing both cases. They managed to do no damage to each other, but we managed to spend a lot of command points to do nothing, which is incredibly important at this point, because if he was able to put down the Spark Sagittarius with that shot, it could have decided the game. In this particular case, the Spark Sagittarius decided to fire its LPA at range to try to at least stun him to have an effect on the AGM roll, but as it turns out, it was almost unnecessary. Striders move forward into the settlement. We're going to keep striding forward just as far as we can. We're going to move the southern one, and he's going to hunker down. He's going to hull down, and perhaps a slightly cheesy decision to hull down behind the little settlement in front of him. We figured that he could just crouch down and fire along the side, and the other one's going to start crashing through, moving forward through the settlement to open up and at least help dictate the pace of the game. Visigoth completely brushes aside the damage that it has taken and is making a mess of the gears that are in front of it. They cannot hold on, and they need to demand all of the support from the Grizzlies that they can get. Federation forces begin reconsidering their position on the south, trying to renegotiate with the terrain and try to at least buy another turn away from the Blitz Visigoth, while the recon drone owner removes his recon drone and puts it a little bit further out on the other side, again to try to keep a line of sight on those gears in the center of the town and plop more effective fire on that Sagittarius that is putting a lot of pain into the gears that are trying to make their way through the forest in the center. I'm actually burning a lot of command points on defense rolls here. He actually managed to take the LAC from one of the gears hiding in the woods in the center of the map at the Strider, and I botched it. He could have potentially killed the Spark Sagittarius immediately, and I had to make that stop. We're not letting him go down like that. Blitz Visigoth crosses the threshold, getting around the corner, opens up with its snub cannons, and manages to give a whole lot of pants-sweating moments for that gear operator, but he manages to survive, burning a command point and managing to survive the fusillade of fire. In exchange, he starts redirecting more fire from the Grizzlies at that Visigoth, but they can't quite ding the armor. A lot of the rounds just barely under the threshold for doing a damage point, and the Visigoth charges on without a nary a care. Center Spark Sagittarius starts entering the woods, finding a nice little bead on the side to start taking shots at the Grizzlies at range. The Grizzlies start panicking a little. They've been backing up and generally trying to use their autopilot to get extra shots and extra actions, but now they can't do it because now they have somebody to shoot at them for paying no attention to their defensive assets. The Nash Naga on the north sees an opportunity as the Jaguars start moving around the northern end of the map. The Nash is going to respond in kind. Grizzlies begin reconsidering their position, shuffling around. One of them moves forward to hide behind the rock escarpment on the center of the board, while the other one hides just behind the hill, offering a bit of a defilade. They start raining in fire on the Sagittarius in the center, doing something of an effective point of damage against them, and then the AGM gear moves around the corner, opens up on him, and lights him up, dealing quite a bit of damage to the Sagittarius. I try to burn a command point to get a better defense roll on it, but he was just rolling too hot. Federation Jaguars begin moving around the northern end of the map, engaging the Nash Naga in the open. Nash Naga is not going to take it, turns around, takes its veteran-equipped pilot, and starts laying into him with the AGM in defensive fire, giving him into light damage. This doesn't slow down the Jaguars at all as they continue moving through the woods, trying to get a bit of crossfire on that Nash Naga, and they might very well pull it off. The Nash Naga is mostly unsupported, having only a Jaeger up there, hiding in the escarpment of rocks up there to protect it. Having just recently noticed that there is in fact a whole lot of gear sitting in the center woods, the venomous Sagittarius turns around, opens up with his VLRS, and starts spamming the mess out of it with every shot that it can take. It's mostly an effective fire, just clearing out the weeds, so to speak, but it's enough to give him something to think about. And if that wasn't concern enough alone, the army commander moves into the settlement and takes in a fortified position with the rest of his crew as they begin unloading into the forest, hoping to hit something of value from the Federation forces. While on the northern end, the Nash Naga has successfully stalled the Federation advance. And do you know what gear it is? It's the one that started it all. Haikus are easy, but sometimes they don't make sense. Refrigerator. Hey, it might not have actually started gear warfare, but it is the gear that started warfare. It's the Hunter. The Federation Army has been put off balance as the Republican Army has successfully dictated the pace of the game, making great strides in the southern end of the map and also completely blunting the northern advance through the woods on the northern end of the map. So they do what they can. They have to protect the Grizzlies for everything that they got, and they start laying into the Sagittarius on the center. I see the writing on the wall, and I start reaction firing everything I can. As he pushes the Grizzlies forward, the LPAs fire off, and MRP also manages to tag the center Grizzly, putting it down in a last defiant and fairly lucky shot. Federation forces won't take it lying down, though, as they begin moving their gears around, trying to put in effective fire against that Spark Sagittarius. They move in the AGM gear, and they begin laying in an amount of fire from the guided mortar and the AGM that no amount of defensive command points could have been thrown at that Sagittarius to make it survive, or at least not when I'm rolling it, and it eventually buys it. Despite my efforts, they put down the Spark Sagittarius, for effectively allowing the South to take out half of the firepower of the Federation forces. It is a titanic victory by my measure. Northern Jaguar begins to take advantage of the exploit, or at least the loss in command points, moves forward, and the Sagittarius, the venomous Sagittarius, makes an off-the-hip shot with its LAC and puts it down. Oh, that just had to hurt. Blitz Visigoth takes the initiative, pushes forward, and decides to put down that recon gear that has been giving me such a headache with its guided mortar shots from the Grizzly. Opens up again with the snub cannons and the light laser cannon and lights him up. No amount of tap dancing can actually make him survive this round. At point blank range, we just unload on him to finally put that gear down. Even the Federation gears in the center of the map have started taking a second look at their situation, as they are now outnumbered by the GP cadre, and they still have a Strider out there willing and ready to put them down the moment it decides to stop hunkering from behind the building. And as the gears in the forest started hiding and generally moving away from a direct avenue of fire, the GP squad as well as the Spark Sagittarius had nothing better to shoot at, so they decided to light up the remaining member of the GP squad holding the southern flank, leaving the Blitz Visigoth completely unopposed on the southern end of the map. Federation Grizzly begins laying in fire on the center elements, hoping to disperse them or otherwise cause a little bit of damage, because just as soon as that there is an opening, he knows as well as I do that the GP squad is going to disembark from the settlement and start pressing through the center of the town, completely pushing the northern units away from the settlement center that I only barely have in contention. I'm just barely in the range to say that I have a unit within the radius of the settlement to contain it. I begin moving them forward despite the barrage, because we're going to take it immediately. That's the army commander that is thrusting his way into the center, leading the charge. And it's fairly brave to do it. Hoorah! Guy moves forward and starts hunkering behind the building, and all he has to support him is the Nash Naga, as the GP squad is out in the open, because there's an entire, almost functional strike squad that is currently holding the center for the Federation. But I've got a plan in motion. I've had a plan in motion ever since I moved the Blizzygoth on the southern end of the board, where it was nice and open. He was going to charge, and he was going to get out there into such a way that he might be able to dictate the rest of the game. And with most of his forces desperately trying to put down the army commander to try to keep that victory point, as well as try to do something about that Nash Naga that is about to bust through the woods, they turn and devote all their fire into the army commander, actually putting him into light damage for the effect. And the two army commanders between me and him starts trading shots. Point blank range, almost just outside of melee range. And the game is almost being decided as two army commanders are practically muzzle to muzzle with each other right outside the settlement doors. And as they do, the game is being decided as the Naga goes, "Oh yeah!" busts through the forest, pops an AGM into the back of the army commander, and then dusts off the Grizzlies, successfully giving them enough of distraction so that the Blitz Visigoth can make his shot downrange and make the game 4-0. That was a good game. And thanks for watching. This has been an Ouchies Batrep. And even though my strategy always was to get the Visigoth out there in its element, I couldn't help shooting his leader in the back. Come on. Come on!